Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving straight into a massive architectural paradigm shift, defending human labor in the AI era. We're going to explore how the source material contrasts the wildly speculative AI asset class with some very concrete defensive engineering. We're talking about silicon-level defense mechanisms designed to protect everyday human creators from these massive automated AI engines.
To really grasp the sheer speculative energy fueling the AI boom right now, let's look at this quote from Ahmad Mostak. He notes that their prices are decoupled from any underlying reality, and when everything is a bubble, nothing is stable. The sources highlight that we're basically looking at a speculative AI casino, one that's completely detached from the actual, tangible value of human labor.
So, here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the AI extraction trap. Then we'll look at the broken patent system, move on to the EGPL poison pill, explore contract-secured revenue, and finally wrap things up with true creator sovereignty. Let's get right into it.
All right, Section 1, the AI extraction trap.
The source material draws this really fascinating contrast between two totally different approaches to funding our digital future. On one side, you have what they call liquidator VC. Think of it like a speculative casino built on rapid, short-term extraction and, honestly, a lot of collateral damage. But on the flip side, there's legitimacy VC. This is more like planting a 10-year vineyard, compounding structural infrastructure to build a foundation that actually endures over time.
And the mechanism driving that short-term extraction? Well, the sources describe it as the wood chipper effect. The argument here is that these AI mega platforms are acting like a massive blender. They just completely destroy data provenance, permanently severing original creators from their rightful compensation. It literally just chops it all up.
Which brings us to Section 2, the broken patent system.
$12.5 billion. That's a staggering number, right? Well, that is exactly what Google dropped to acquire Motorola Mobility back in 2011. Now, the sources suggest this massive purchase wasn't really about manufacturing phones. It was mostly to acquire a defensive shield of 17,000 patents. It really illustrates how traditional patents often just serve as exclusionary legal thickets for corporate giants rather than protecting individual inventors. To put that into perspective for the little guy, consider the independent creators Zaxcom. They actually won an Emmy for their digital wireless mic technology, but when competitors infringed on their work, Zaxcom had to endure 14 grueling years of legal spam before their patents were invalidated. So the proposed thesis here is pretty stark. The current system heavily favors the biggest budget over the best invention.
So, what's the alternative? That brings us to Section 3, the new shield, the EGPL.
Enter the EGPL, which stands for the Ethereum General Public License. The sources present this as a legally engineered protective shell with incredibly strict network boundaries. Basically, it's designed to transform intellectual property law into an automated creator shield, acting as a proactive, copyleft poison pill against that extractive AI we talked about earlier.
And here is how that defense actually operates in 3 distinct steps. First, if a closed AI system secretly scrapes your code without permission, that network interaction instantly triggers a strict license breach. Then, because it acts as a copyleft poison pill, it legally forces that offending company to open source their own proprietary tech. It's a massive deterrent.
Move in right along to Section 4, Contract Secured Revenue.
So, this is where contract secured revenue, or CSR, via ERC 6969, comes into play. By anchoring revenue into a digital deed right at the protocol level, ERC 6969 acts as an automated engine to flawlessly compensate human labor. It essentially reroutes network toll fees away from centralized sequencers and sends them directly back to the original author. It enforces payment right there at the silicon layer.
To make this a bit more concrete, the sources use a great analogy from the music industry. You know how listening to the radio is totally free for consumers, but commercial stations have to pay into royalty pools from their ad revenue to compensate the songwriters? Well, applied to software, everyday developers can inspect open source code for free. But those massive commercial AI engines plugging it into high-volume machines, they are forced to pay automated micro-royalties.
It really all boils down to this brilliant quote from the architecture's inventor. Author opt-in for revenue, consumer zero cost. The proposed ecosystem outlined here aims to fully respect free digital commons while actively preventing corporate hoarding, ensuring that creators are, actually rewarded for their work.
And that leads us perfectly into Section 5,
true creator sovereignty. What this architecture outlines is a massive paradigm shift. It essentially trades away our slow, highly volatile reliance on state-granted legal authority, which, as we saw with Zaxcom, often just results in years of exhausting litigation, for a fully automated protocol-enforced ecosystem. This permissionless patent relies on cryptographic evidence and executes micro-royalties right at the silicon layer.
And this guarantees what the sources call technical inalienability. That's just a fancy way of describing the functional reality where a creator's right to get paid simply cannot be physically or legally stripped away from the code. By hard-coding compensation directly into the silicon, you completely bypass the need for expensive lawyers and endless court battles. It inherently secures sovereign authorship.
As the source material contrasts the collapse of this speculative AI casino with the concrete legitimacy of a 10-year vineyard, it leaves us with a really provocative question. Are you ready for a system that actually pays the creators? Will everyday creators remain vulnerable to endless extraction? Or will the future rely on deterministic code, copyleft poison pills, and automated micro-royalties at the silicon layer to secure our digital destiny? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.